2020 has left this room largely unused for actual gaming, and it's given me a lot of time to reflect on that part of the hobby and why I've been struggling with it for a long time. Hey guys, welcome back to Black Magic Craft. So the first half of 2020 has been largely awful, in just about every way imaginable. I've been trying to make the best of it and count my blessings, but it's hard not to get down in the dumps with everything that's gone on in the world over the past few months. One of the many consequences of the pandemic is the indefinite shutdown of my D&D game. This break made me come to terms with something I've known for quite a while, but wouldn't admit. I'm really not into D&D anymore. Well, hold up a second, just bear with me. What I mean is, I just haven't been motivated or excited to run D&D games. A lot of this stems from the fact that I'm really yearning to just play a game where I can show up, drink some beers, socialize, and not have to worry about all the work that is involved in being a DM. When you're running a game, it can be the most rewarding gaming experience imaginable, but it can also be a big burden. And it can come with a lot of pressure to make sure that everybody else is getting that great gaming experience, sometimes at the cost of you getting it for yourself. I'm totally content making terrain for videos to help you guys with your games, and I found a fantastic outlet in building dioramas. But still, my heart has been aching because I've been missing that other vital part of the hobby, playing games. For a period, me and a few friends played around with other games that would give me that freedom to just show up and play and not have to work during the game. Frostgrave was a really good fit for a while, but unfortunately, the guys I was playing with sort of lost interest. I tried to bring myself a bit into their world and do something Warhammer related, but I really wasn't keen to fall headfirst into the massive pit that is 40k or Age of Sigmar. They figured we'd meet in the middle and try Kill Team. I played a game and it was fun, and I even started assembling a roster of models for it. I finished my Poxwalkers, but never got past the assembly and priming stage for my Plague Marines. Over the past 2 weeks, after much reflecting about my relationship with gaming and hobbying, things suddenly aligned in a way that created a spark. Open play Warhammer 40k. The answer had been in plain sight the whole time, but it took 3 things happening in short succession for me to come to this realization. Thing the first, Trent, my friend Trent from Miscast, and his series of Nurgle Diary videos. In these, my eyes were open to the fact that Warhammer modeling could be a lot less restrictive than I had thought. It got me thinking about those Death Guard models I had sitting on the shelf for nearly a year, and how much I also love the aesthetic of Plague Marines, Poxwalkers, and Nurgle Demons. Thing the second, my close friend JP and I got to talking about restarting some sort of game, and what we could play this time around. He again suggested playing Warhammer. I expressed some concern that I had over certain aspects of the game, and he said there was a perfect solution: narrative gaming. The plan would be to play some open games with a low power for me to get a handle on the rules, and then transition into a more narrative style play that would be a perfect fit for both of us. Thing the third, 28 mag, and the whole world of Blanchitsu modeling. I had been familiar with this style for quite a while, and I've always loved it. What I didn't know is that this aesthetic went way beyond just painting style and was in fact a whole movement, a whole community. This was the final push I needed. Looking through that magazine at all these alternative modeling styles that I really connected with, and reading articles about the mentality behind them, was exactly what I needed to realize that Warhammer actually was right for me. Because just like D&D, turns out Warhammer can be anything you want it to be. I was determined to not only paint those Plague Marines that had been collecting dust, but to build a full and proper Death Guard army. I ordered a bunch of stuff to get started, but first I had to conquer that small, intimidating mountain that was painting the Plague Marines. I actually did something I never do. I tested out a bunch of techniques on 2 of the models before committing to a plan. I was gonna approach this whole paint job and the new Warhammer venture differently. I wasn't going to just wing it. I wanted to take time to find out how to best paint these guys in a way that balanced how they look, how hard it was to do, and how enjoyable the process was. So I allocated some time to experimenting before committing. And I learned that the contrast paint that I had landed on using for the base coat did in fact work better when the model was primed with the Citadel primer versus the Vallejo primer that I already had sitting on them. So I reprimed them all. I set out a basic plan of attack with a minimal amount of paints. This would grow significantly over the coming days. The idea of going into this paint job not worrying about so many of the things that intimidated me about painting Warhammer models was really refreshing. The whole 28 meg aesthetic was so well suited for me personally that I could finally go at these models with excitement rather than fear. I didn't have to worry about any imaginary Warhammer painting rules. Although I did respect certain established rules because, well, they're good rules. My plan with these guys was to not worry about every little detail in the model and how to paint them individually, but instead focus on major material elements, covering transitions, and how to combine all the elements in sufficient levels of texture and grime to really sell that Nurgle vibe. These guys weren't going to be all about a million edge highlight details. I wanted them to be rich in detail, but I wanted those details to be a variety of textures, filth, and finishes. I wanted every part of these models to look interesting when focused on, but I wanted to achieve this through layers of filth rather than layers of perfect painting details. So while I was still putting a lot of time and effort into them and paying attention to the million little sculptural details that GW always includes, I wasn't stressing about it. I don't know how to fully convey this amazing change of mindset I had while working on these figures. GW models have always been this point of contention for me. I disliked them. I disliked them because they were too over the top and because they often came with a lot of stigma and judgment about how you may have painted yours. I guess in all honesty, I was scared to really get into painting them because I was nervous about getting crucified by people on the internet who were so involved in this particular hobby that they knew every lore detail and how it relates to painting an army, or who have spent 20 years perfecting edge highlighting. The moment I realized I could ignore all of that and just attack these in any which way I wanted was the moment I felt this great feeling of freedom and an overwhelming sense of excitement that I hadn't felt in anything hobby related for quite some time. When I started this hobby, I used to spend most nights staying up really late crafting and painting, but over the past year or so that has stopped. Spending the majority of my days already working on stuff for the channel has been more than enough for me, and I haven't felt that alluring pull to work on things into the wee hours of the morning. I didn't feel that need, that desire or excitement to just keep painting and keep building. But these crusty plague boys changed all of that. I found myself feeling this need to work on them over the weekend and into the late hours of the night. This felt a little bit like coming home. Suddenly, I found myself listening to hours of Warhammer lore videos while painting plague swords and bolt guns. If you had told me this several months ago, hell, even a few weeks ago, that this is how I would be spending my evenings, I absolutely would not have believed you. But here I am, and honestly, I couldn't be happier about it. I also found myself wanting to continually take things further. Where I normally might say, yep, this looks good enough, I can stop. Found myself wanting to just add one more thing, one more detail, one more effect. And each time I did it, it got me more excited. And it pushed me to taking it even further. While I experience this with building things quite frequently, I rarely experience it while painting them. I almost never experience it while painting character minis. I finally learned this whole satisfaction of excessive detail that I normally don't understand about mini painting. I now know why it can be so enjoyable to spend hours on one small aspect of a model or its paint job. The trick for me was simply making those details crusty and gross instead of pristine and clean. I know that the whole Blanchitsu approach of mini painting comes with some negative connotations, and it's not something everybody really likes or even respects. I also know that it's often used as a bit of an excuse for poor painting ability. I think I could easily fall into that trap of just slapping crud onto a model to hide low skill level. But I don't think that's what I did here. I think I actually put in a valiant effort and a good amount of artistic ability, enough to make it a legitimately good attempt. I don't know if these models actually could be classified as Blanchitsu proper. I don't really know what all the rules are, although I don't know if there really are defined rules, but you know what? I don't care. And I don't care in a positive way. These models are mine, and their aesthetic is mine. And I love them. I love them so much that I went for an incredibly minimal base, which is the opposite of what I normally do. Usually I highly decorate a base to distract from the mini's paint job, to kind of trick people into thinking it looks better than it really does. But here, I wanted plain bases that served as a frame, and I didn't want them distracting from the paint job that I was so happy with. It's funny, even after clear coating, as I was adding the final glossy effects, I felt myself kind of sad that these models were coming to completion. Despite having a mountain of other models that needed assembly and painting for my army, I just sort of didn't want to stop working on these guys. I don't think I've ever experienced that before, and it's a pretty monumental thing for me. I, of course, cannot deny that peeling these guys off the pill bottle prisons that they had been on for at least a year was by far the most satisfying hobby moment I've had in ages. At this point in time, these models are the thing that I am most proud of. I may not have built them myself, like I can say about the terrain or diorama that I make, but I put so much of myself into their paint job, and I'm so satisfied with the results that these models really are something special for me. They represent not only accomplishing a task that I had procrastinated for ages, but they represent myself opening up to another corner of the hobby that I had previously not only been reluctant to do, but almost aggressively against. Mindsets can be a hard thing to change, but there's nothing in life more fulfilling than questioning and changing your mindset or opinion. Be it a worldview or something to do with your hobby, it doesn't matter. Focusing yourself to look inward and change your opinion on something is one of the most important things you can do as a human being. I think if we all did that a little more, we'd be happier hobbyists and we'd live in a much more stable world. The irony of painting plague marines as a result of my D&D game being shut down by a literal plague is not lost on me. And in some ways, it makes this whole experience and journey a lot more fitting. This has opened a whole world of new hobby possibilities for me, and I couldn't be happier about it. Don't worry, this channel isn't going full Warhammer, but things related to Warhammer modeling, specifically this alternative style of Warhammer modeling, will surely become a more regular part of it. I'm at the beginning of a new hobby journey, and I really want to share that with you guys. This channel has always existed to teach people how to do things, but more importantly, it's existed with the sole purpose of inspiring. Specifically inspiring people to try new things and to not be afraid to jump headfirst into new hobbies. This week, I took my own advice, and I'm really glad that I did. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Doing so really means a lot, and it helps these videos reach a lot more people. If you want to jump into some new corner of the hobby and you need some tools or supplies to do it, please check out my essential equipment page on blackmagiccraft.ca. It's a great resource for understanding the tools of the trade, and using that page really helps out this channel. And if you want to help me continue this channel and doing what I do, consider supporting it on Patreon. If it wasn't for the support there, I wouldn't be able to hang out with you guys every week and show you what's going on in my hobby life. I love you all. Thanks for watching, but now get out there, go, get to work on that hobby project you've been too scared to try. You'll probably be happy that you did.